Hello, and welcome to the Using Cloud WAF tutorial. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to use Radware's Cloud WAF effectively and efficiently, and make the most out of its capabilities. Cloud WAF customers need to perform these activities in order to effectively use Radware's Cloud WAF. Let's review the activities and learn how to perform them. Upon purchasing Radware's Cloud WAF services, the customer receives an email notification from Radware Cloud Services, radware@radwarecloud.com, inviting them to log into the portal. The email is triggered either by the Radware Cloud Operations team or by a colleague in the customer's organization that is already registered to the portal. By default, Radware Cloud WAF requires two-factor authentication using Google Authenticator. Make sure to install Google Authenticator on your iOS or Android-based mobile devices before your first login to Radware's Cloud WAF portal. Customers who prefer to use password-based authentication only, rather than 2FA, two-factor authentication, need to contact Radware support team, support@radware.com. Initial login to Radware's Cloud WAF portal includes the following steps. Set your password. When your account is using two-factor authentication, 2FA, a QR code is displayed. Open Google Authenticator on your mobile device and point your device camera to the displayed QR code. Type the security code that appears on the Google Authenticator on your mobile device. Select your security question and type your personal answer. The security question and answer will be used in case you need to reset your password. The first-time setup procedure is completed. You are now signed into the portal and can start using it. For the first user login of a new account, a welcome screen is displayed, which lets you add certificates, add applications, or invite users. An application within Radware's WAF is a logical entity in Radware Cloud Services that protects your domains against web application attacks and DOS attacks. Here are the steps required to onboard a new protected application. After performing all these steps, the configured application is protected against both web application attacks and DDoS attacks. Note, the default Cloud WAF offering includes a learning period and the review of the security policy by ERT experts. Customers that are interested in immediate protection without the learning and policy review steps need to contact Radware support team. An application can have only one certificate bound to it. You can bind a certificate in the list to one or more of your applications. In order to add a new HTTPS application, you need to add the certificate or certificates, create the application, and bind the certificate or certificates to the application. To add a certificate for an HTTPS application, navigate to Settings, Certificates, and click the plus button. Paste the certificate bundle details, the certificate private key in PEM format, the public key, which is the certificate that signs the application in PEM format, the certificate chain that contains one or more intermediate certificates concatenated in PEM format. This information is optional. And an optional passphrase in the case the key is encrypted. Note that the certificate, private key, and the certificate chain need to be PEM encoded. Certificates of different types, such as DER, PKCS number 7, and others, can be easily converted to PEM format by using OpenSSL or other online tools. The certificate can be used when adding an application to be protected by Cloud WAF, or can be bound to an existing application that is already configured to use HTTPS. Sometimes, customers need to update the certificate used for an existing web application, typically when a certificate expires. Customers can update a certificate by themselves using the Radware Cloud WAF portal. When the HTTPS protocol is selected, you can choose a certificate from the certificate drop-down list and save the changes. The selected certificate bundle will be bound to the application. To replace a certificate bound to one or more applications, you need to go to Settings, Certificates, and select the new certificate. In the Certificates page, you can choose the required certificate from the Import Applications from Certificate drop-down list and save the changes. The new certificate will replace the previous one for the selected application. To onboard a new protected application, navigate to Settings, Applications, and click the plus button. Then configure the following: the display name of the application in the Applications list, for example, Radware website. The main application domain that Radware Cloud Services is protecting, for example, www.radware.com. The origin server, the IPv4 address or domain of the origin server that hosts the application. Upon application creation, a single origin server can be specified, for example, 23.56.43.89, origin.location2.radware.com. Note that once the application is deployed, you can set additional origin servers for your application. Region, the geographic region where Radware WAF service deploys the application. It is recommended to select a region that is closest to the location of the origin server. Application protocol, which are the services that the application supports, HTTP and/or HTTPS. The SSL certificate that terminates the HTTPS requests. The certificate field is mandatory for HTTPS applications. After application configuration, the application goes into the provisioning state. This process typically takes a few minutes, but may take up to a few hours to complete. When in the provisioning state, the parameters of the application settings in the portal are read-only. Once the provisioning state is completed, the application goes into the learning state, during which it learns your website structure, the different request types that reaches each area within the application, and the different activities that are performed in each area. Once learning is complete, Radware expert teams review the policy, and after that, the application enters the protecting phase, where it starts protecting your web applications. As soon as a new application is provisioned, changes status from provisioning to learning, the service is ready to receive incoming traffic, to learn the traffic patterns and build the security policies, so that attack traffic can be detected and blocked. You will receive an email with the setup details, including the details required for diverting your traffic through the service. The same information is displayed in the portal as well. You are required to point your application's authoritative DNS servers to Radware Cloud Services by adding the DNS records as listed in the email and the portal. DNS translates the hostname, such as www.mysite.com, to the IP address of the origin server that is hosting the application. DNS changes might take a few hours to propagate over the Internet. Before changing your DNS server settings, Radware recommends testing the service connectivity locally, using your local host static settings host file to point traffic through the Cloud WAF service. You can learn more about how to perform DNS diversion in the relevant article on Radware's knowledge base. Cloud WAF has a negative security mode and positive security mode. The negative security mode optimizes the security rules to make them more accurate. A negative security model, or blacklist, defines what traffic should be blocked while allowing everything else. Signatures are an implementation example of a negative security rule. A positive security model, also known as whitelist, defines what traffic is allowed to reach the application. The traffic that meets the predefined criteria is allowed, and everything else is rejected. Cloud WAF employs both security models, thus providing the best security coverage with minimal impact on legitimate traffic. Combining the two models enables granular and accurate policy definitions, therefore avoiding false positives and false negatives. Once DNS settings are updated, requests sent to your application go through Radware Cloud WAF service and only then get sent over to the origin servers. Traffic going towards your application enables the service to initiate the traffic learning period in order to set up and refine the negative and positive security models. During the learning period, Radware Cloud WAF service maps the application structure, the folders it contains, their content, files, cookies, parameters, etc., and their place within the application. At the same time, auto policy generation sets the relevant security filters, analyzes traffic properties from the production environment, and builds a dynamic network profile for a specific site, according to which the auto policy generation module automatically builds the policy. During the learning period, Radware Cloud WAF service creates the positive security policies based on application transactions, in addition to the out-of-the-box negative security policies. The learning period usually takes 1 to 2 weeks, depending on traffic volume. During the learning period, DOS or DDoS protection is fully operational. Your application is immediately protected from DOS or DDoS attacks. WAF protection works in learning mode. Cloud WAF monitors traffic to your application servers and responses to clients, learns legitimate traffic patterns, and generates events for detected security breaches. However, application traffic is not blocked. Let's use this application example, www.reservations.com, to understand what occurs during Cloud WAF's learning process. Cloud WAF analyzes the application structure to identify potential attacks on the application. Once the threats are identified, Cloud WAF automatically generates a security policy that will protect against the identified attack vectors. During the learning process, Cloud WAF continuously optimizes the automatically generated security policy according to ongoing traffic to the service. The security policy is optimized to ensure that the legitimate traffic is not blocked. Finally, the policy is activated. Here are several recommendations to help you optimize Cloud WAF's learning process and maximize effectiveness. For Cloud WAF to be able to effectively learn legitimate traffic patterns for an application, it is crucial that, as much as possible, traffic going through Cloud WAF represents actual traffic patterns of the service. Instruct your application QA team to run the main business flows through the system. Be sure to include special flows such as end-of-quarter tasks, admin pages, and so on. As soon as a sufficient traffic volume goes through the service, Cloud WAF is ready to protect your application. A Radware Emergency Response Team (ERT) representative will contact you to review the learned protection policy in order to ensure minimum false positives. After reviewing the security policy with the customer, ERT experts change the application state from provisioning to learning, and Cloud WAF starts blocking attacks. Radware's ERT comprises of security experts that have extensive knowledge about security threats, tools, and technologies, and are experienced in fighting known, as well as emerging, single and multi-vector attacks, while providing attack mitigation best practices and techniques. Radware recommends that during the review with ERT, you will review the events generated for the IP addresses used by your testing team. Once reviewed and confirmed, WAF protection for the application is turned on to be active, and the state of the service application changes to protecting. Your application is now protected against both web application attacks and DOS attacks. In order to prevent users from accessing your origin servers directly, thus exposing them to attacks, for additional security, Radware recommends using a firewall on your side to allow only Radware Cloud services to access the application origin server directly. The service IP addresses can be requested from ERT. Note that even after the review with ERT, false positives are possible. Here you can see the provisioned applications and their status. To edit or configure an application, you need to click on it. Here's how the portal displays that your application is protected by Cloud WAF. For basic application protection, you're done and all set to go. However, Radware's Cloud WAF can be configured to address unique customer needs and thus includes additional numerous configuration options once the application is provisioned. Cloud WAF is configured by default to handle a single origin server IP per application. Each application uses one or more origin servers that serve the application requests. A single server represents an IP address or a fully qualified domain name, FQDN, of a single entity, which can be a single server or a cluster of servers. If multiple origin servers are required for high availability or load balancing purposes, or if the configured IP of the origin server changes, Cloud WAF needs to be updated to reflect that. The default origin server IP should be updated once the application is provisioned, meaning during learning or protecting modes. The specified origin server's configuration determines how the application communicates with your origin servers. Radware Cloud Services supports the following application modes. Failover. The application uses a primary and a secondary origin server. When the result of the health check for the primary origin server is not available, the secondary origin server begins addressing the application requests. Load balancing. The application uses one or more origin servers. Up to 8 servers can be set. When more than a single origin server is set, Cloud WAF uses the round-robin method to choose the available server. Note: server addresses can be specified using IP address or FQDN. You can update the following parameters to control the application-supported protocols. Select the HTTP checkbox to specify that the application is accessible to clients over HTTP. When the HTTP checkbox is selected, you can configure the following related parameters. Redirect to HTTPS, which, when enabled, drives all traffic to the Secure Channel, SSL, so that clients accessing your application using HTTP over port 80 are redirected to HTTPS port 443. Backend port is the TCP port for the origin server HTTP connection. And health check parameters. Select the HTTPS checkbox to specify that the application is accessible to clients over HTTPS. When the HTTPS checkbox is selected, you can configure the following related parameters. Backend port, which is the TCP port for the origin server HTTPS connection. The certificate to be used for the application. And health check parameters. If you are using a CDN or another proxy in front of Radware Cloud Services and your application needs to see the true client IP address, you need to perform the Configure True Client IP support process, which is described a little later on. You can update the following parameters to control the application's health checks. For HTTP and HTTPS, health checks success criteria, application level check, HTTP or HTTPS. This defines the success criteria for determining whether the application is available for the specified protocol. The health checks are tested against the origin servers. For TCP health check, interval, the time in seconds between health checks. For HTTP or HTTPS health check, hostname, the host header in the health check HTTP request. Example, www.myapp.com. URL path, the HTTP or HTTPS path that is checked on the origin server. Example, /index.html. Expected response code, the expected HTTP response code from a healthy origin server. Interval, the time in seconds between health checks. When forwarding requests to your origin servers, Radware Cloud Services changes the source IP address in the request. By default, Radware Cloud Service adds the following headers to each transaction that is forwarded to the origin servers. X-RDWR-port specifies the TCP port of the incoming transaction. Example, 15234. X-RDWR-IP specifies the source IP address of the incoming transaction. Example, 1.2.3.4. When using a CDN or some other proxy in front of Radware Cloud Services, the origin server may need to know the true client IP address rather than the IP address of the transaction that was received by Radware Cloud Services. In the Network tab of the Application Configuration screen, you can choose one of the following options to specify how Radware Cloud Service populates the x-rdwr-IP header. Source IP address, default. Radware Cloud Service populates the x-rdwr-IP header with the source IP address. Custom HTTP header. Radware Cloud Service populates the x-rdwr-IP header with a value from the specified HTTP header. For example, when set to CDN-FWD, the value of this header is in the client request as received by Radware Cloud Services is used for x-rdwr-IP. Note that the true client IP value will be copied to Radware x-rdwr-IP header value and forwarded to the origin servers. The service IP-based features such as the access rules will be classified based on the true client IP values. In addition to the ability to determine which header Radware Cloud WAF will refer to as the true client IP when examining incoming traffic, you can also set a custom header to which Radware Cloud WAF will copy the true client IP before sending the traffic to your application server. Radware's Cloud WAF service comes with several very useful tools to enable effective and efficient monitoring of protected applications, security metrics, and events. Those tools include a real-time dashboard, which displays up-to-date security metrics, logs and reports that enable drilling down to security events in order to understand the threats behind them, and an alerting system that informs on changes detected in the threat landscape of protected applications. The monitoring tools also enable tracking of the WAF service plans, usage, and utilization. Customers that have their own SIEM system can export security events to them from the Cloud WAF. This capability enables correlating the service's security events to other measurements coming from different tools or vendors. We'll review Cloud WAF's monitoring tools in a dedicated training module. Cloud WAF's dashboard provides a real-time view of applications protection. The dashboard consists of a smart grid of widgets offering visibility into the security service statistics, conveying meaningful metrics, and monitoring through different charts. The dashboard is highly configurable. It enables configuring the time range and the application or applications displayed for the entire dashboard or per specific widget. You can add one or more widgets to the dashboard. For forensic analysis, you can drill down from widgets to the events. Simply click on the portion of the pie, bar, or graph, and a filtered view of the security event screen is displayed. The security event screen displays security events generated by Cloud WAF and enables sorting, filtering, and reviewing each event in detail. You can expand each displayed event to view additional details and also to allow specific events in case of false positives. You can filter WAF events according to the various criteria displayed in the filtering pane. Application Analytics aggregate and group events into application activities for improved readability and handling. It consolidates a large number of events into a small number of manageable activities, reduces log overload, and helps administrators focus on high-priority alerts and gives context regarding an application's behavior for rapid troubleshooting. In addition to network updates that you can perform in Cloud WAF, you can also update your security settings. Here are the security-related activities that you can perform in Cloud WAF. Sometimes Cloud WAF mistakenly identifies a valid client request as an attack, and the request is blocked. This is called a false positive. In such cases, you need to create an exception for the legitimate request so that similar requests are allowed in the future and not blocked. The exception lets all subsequent requests of the same type continue and not be blocked. Cloud WAF lets customers address false positives of application-level attacks in a simple self-service action through the Cloud Portal. When a user is blocked, the user receives a page similar to this example. To allow requests that Radware Cloud WAF blocked, 1. Copy the case number from the page to the clipboard. 2. Go to the security event screen. 3. Click the filter button. In the filter pane, paste the case number into the transaction ID field. Click Apply to filter the events. Make sure that the time filter at the top of the screen shows the correct time that the event happened. Click the down arrow to open the event entry. If the event can be allowed, click Allow on an event to add an exception for transactions of the same type to the relevant module on the WAF policy. A confirmation request to the Allow action will be displayed. Requests vary according to the event type. Once confirmed, the following message is displayed. Allow request was sent. Status loading. After the Allow request is implemented, the status changes to Succeeded. To see status of Allow requests, you can monitor the activity log as needed. You can determine which security modules are applied to your applications and specify the mode of each security module, blocking mode or report-only mode. In blocking mode, the security module actively protects the application, blocking malicious requests and responses to the application that have been identified as malicious. When a security module is working in report-only mode, Cloud WAF monitors traffic to the application servers and responses to clients, learns legitimate traffic patterns, and generates events for detected security breaches. However, application traffic is not blocked. Using report-only mode allows to fine-tune the learned security policies before activating them, thus minimizing false positives. You can also disable a security module from this screen. Note that in the Events view in the portal, you can see the security module that detected each event. If you want to see the security module that detected each event, you can filter the events according to the protection. Using access control, you can control who gets access to your application. You can define rules to block or permit incoming traffic, classified by a specified order. The rules order can be modified. Each entry sets behavior for incoming traffic source, which can be set as IP address, for example 1.1.1.1, or CIDR, such as 1.1.1.0/24, and whether this traffic is blocked or allowed. You can also set the default behavior when traffic does not match any entry, block, or permit. The Radware Cloud WAF portal now includes advanced options to configure TLS version support for applications. TLS 1.2, 1.1, 1.0, and SSL version 3 are supported for connectivity between clients, visitors, and the Radware Cloud service. You can also configure the Cipher suite to use a predefined suite for high security, compatibility to support older browsers, or a combination of the two. You can manage Cloud WAF users. Add, delete, or modify existing users. Manage users' permissions. And manage users' authentication. To edit default membership groups, navigate to Settings, Users, and click the plus button. Note that by default, you can define up to 10 users in Cloud WAF. If additional users are required, you need to contact the Cloud WAF operations team. You can add users from your team or organization to allow them to individually access the Cloud WAF portal. Here are some best practice tips to help you maximize the benefits of Radware's Cloud WAF service. Thank you for your attention and your time. We hope you had an interesting and beneficial learning experience. For any questions, please contact training@radware.com. You may either view this tutorial again or close the browser to exit.